Okay, time to review the 1980 World Series champion Philadelphia Phillies. This team was not a part of the Strat-O-Matic 1980s Diamond Gems set. This is from the regular set from the 1980 season. Played with this team a lot in the past. It's a fun team to play with. And I'll get into more of that later on in the video as to the things that I really like about this team. First, let's get started with the offense as we always do, and we'll get started with the top of the order. Now, when Stratomatic releases these full season sets, they give out a little sheet with a rundown of all the teams, and under where it says lineups most frequently used, they have Rose leading off, which is right. That's consistent. But they have Bake McBride as the number two hitter. So I'm gonna go with that. I kind of remember off memory from watching like old Philly games from that 1980 postseason, them using Manny Trio hitting second at times. But I could be wrong. And just for continuity's sake, let me stick with the way Stratomatic has it on their sheet that they released with the season sets. So let's take a look at Pete Rose and Bake McBride's on base chance numbers. You see both of those numbers check out pretty good for both versus left-handed and right-handed pitching. What I really like about Bake McBride is that he's a left-handed hitter who is really not impacted at all facing left-handed pitching. And I'm also going to go ahead and show you Bake McBride's hits with multiple base advancement. So you can see he has a really solid card from 1980. It's a nice guy to have in your lineup. Now let's take a look at the number three hitter, Mike Schmidt, obviously the MVP from 1980. And I think a lot of people, when they think about the 1980 baseball season, the first thing they think of is George Brett hitting 390 that year. As well they should, but a lot of people kind of forget about, the Phillies won the World Series that year, and Mike Schmidt had really one of the most incredible years a third baseman ever had in the history of baseball. And it's a really terrific card out of Mike Schmidt in 1980. You see his on base chances, and you see his hits with multiple base advancement. Those numbers can go up to 8 or 9, depending on ballpark effect hits. So really, it's a terrific card out of Mike Schmidt, as well it should be, as that year he hit just under 290 with 48 home runs and 121 RBIs. Just a outstanding card out of the 1980 NL MVP. Now, let me go ahead and show you the runner advance hits for the cleanup guy, Greg Lazinski. You see his numbers are a little bit down. Obviously, again, just like every player, they could go up a little bit depending on ballpark effect home runs. But all in all, it is a decent card out of Greg Lazinski from that year, but I do wish that those runner advance hits were a little bit higher than what he gives you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you the numbers for Gary Maddox. They have him hitting sixth in the Phillies lineup. You can see very solid numbers against left-handed pitching, which is nice to see. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you all of Manny Trio's numbers. Excellent card out of Manny Trio in 1980. You get solid numbers for getting on base and respectable numbers for hits with multiple base advancement. And now I'm going to go ahead and show you the numbers for Larry Boa and Bob Boone. As we round out the lineup, you see Larry Boa's on base chances, and you see all of Bob Boone's numbers, including his hits with multiple base advancement against left-handed pitching. So really, what I like about this Phillies lineup is that there really are no automatic outs in this lineup. It's a lineup where you have a nice mix of righties and lefties, and of course they have their big slugger in Mike Schmidt hitting third in the lineup. But I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of more guys here who are really interesting options to either use them in spot play or bring him off the bench to pinch hit. I'm going to show you the numbers for Lonnie Smith and Keith Moreland. You see Lonnie Smith's on base chances. You see those are excellent numbers, and I'm going to show you all of Keith Moreland's numbers, both his on base chances and his hits with multiple base advancement. So it really is a team where if you get into one of those games where you're in a little bit of a high scoring game and you find yourself pinch hitting for the pitcher spot more than once during a game, you definitely have some nice options to bring off the bench. So as we look at the Phillies offense as a whole, I graded them out with an overall rating of a 4.2 out of 5, which is a very good rating overall for an offense. You see the high score came in the righty lefty mix. A big reason for that is obviously Mike Schmidt. I don't have to go into great detail on his card. Obviously, he has a terrific card from 1980, but I really like the fact that you have a guy like Bake McBride, who's a left-handed hitter who is not impacted either way, facing a lefty or a righty. And it really is the same deal with guys like Greg Lazinski and Manny Trio. Those are not right-handed hitters who are only good against left-handed pitching. I really like the versatility in this lineup, not to mention what you could bring off the bench. The middle of the order graded out very good, 4 out of 5. On base percentage, I graded them above average. I gave them a 3.5 out of 5. I wish Pete Rose's on base chance numbers were a little bit higher from that year, but the numbers are what they are. But overall, you can see the 1980 Phillies grade out very good with their offense of a 4.2 out of 5. Now, let's take a look at the defense. No complaints here. You've got a 1 and a 2 at shortstop and second base. They score a 5 out of 5. You look at the outfield defense left to right. The only blemish here is you've got the 4 in left field. So obviously that had to bring the rating down a little bit. They graded out as a 3.5 out of 5. And as we look at the E ratings, this is where we run into just a slight problem with the E ratings, which I'm going to get into. The middle of the infield E ratings, you got no issues there with Trio and Boa. The outfield E rating, you do run into a little bit of a problem with the E rating in center field. So that had to bring down the E rating outfield score, which I keep off to the side. So far I got middle infield E rating as a perfect 5 out of 5, outfield 3.5 out of 5 with the E ratings. First base, third base, this is really where the Phillies get hurt with their E rating score because you are well above average at first base with Pete Rose. That is a excellent E rating for first base. Mike Schmidt is a 1, but that E rating that can hurt you. A 30 at third base can cause you some problems in a game if you're not lucky. So I had to grade the first base, third base E rating category. It's just a 2.5 out of 5. So their overall E rating average came out to a 3.6 out of 5. So the Phillies overall defense still comes out slightly above a 4 as a 4.03. So overall, that is still a very good defensive score, as well it should be, because your infield defense, you have all ones and twos, even though I talked about Mike Schmidt's high E rating. You are solid in the outfield, in center field, and right. Left field can be a little bit of a problem, and no issues up the middle. So overall, they still grade out as a 4.03 with the defense. Now let's take a look at the Phillies starting pitching. Obviously, the ace that year was Steve Carlton. Not going to spend a lot of time on this card as you see his on base chances. This is a very easy call, 5 out of 5. Once again, it was one of Lefty's great years. Where he won one of his Cy Young Awards from 1980. Now, let's move on to the starting rotation depth. First, I'm going to show you the numbers for Dick Ruthven, Bob Walk, and Larry Christensen. You see all of their on-base chances right there. What I really like about Dick Ruthven's card, if you saw the video I did a while back on the 7-game series that I played between the 1980 Phillies and 1981 LA Dodgers, I mentioned how Dick Ruthven has really what I would call like a stingy card, because even though, yeah, you do have some on base chances with him, he's really good at keeping the ball in the ballpark, which I really like. So you see his numbers. Bob Walk's numbers are pretty good, and Larry Christensen's numbers check out pretty well on his end. And just for the sake of it, I'm also going to show you the numbers for Marty Bystrom. Now, albeit I know he only had 5 starts that year and only threw 36 innings. So you may ask, why am I throwing his numbers in there? Well, it's obvious. It's because he has a card. And if you go to sit down with the 1980 Phillies and you're playing a friend in a best of 5 or best of 7, it's an option that you could use. Not everyone is a complete Strat-O-Matic nut like me and sits down and plays a 162 game season. So obviously, if you were to sit down and play a 162 game season, Marty Bystrom is only a guy that you would use for like maybe a month or whatever. You can't use him for 30 starts. But if you're just sitting down to play with a friend, this is the numbers say it all right there. I mean, it's really a pretty incredible card. So as I was grading the Philly starting rotation depth, I kind of found myself in a little bit of a catch 22 here, because I really wasn't sure if I should go ahead and include Marty Bystrom's numbers in the overall starting rotation depth score, because I was kind of talking about what I said before about how, okay, well, if you sit down and play a full season with the 1980 Phillies, you're only going to have Marty Bystrom for a couple of weeks to a month. But if you sit down and play a best of 5 or a best of 7 series, he could be a real weapon for you. So the number I landed on was a 3.5 out of 5. I couldn't give the starting rotation depth a score of a 4 out of 5 or higher, which means it is very good, because all the cards, if I take Marty Bystrom out of the mix, when you look at Bob Walk, Larry Christensen, and Dick Ruffin, all the cards are just pretty good. I feel comfortable about the 3.5 out of 5 score for the starting rotation depth. So overall, the Phillies starting rotation grades out at a very good 4.2 out of 5, and a lot of that obviously is driven, as well it should be, by Steve Carlton, who was just incredible in his 1980 season. Now let me go ahead and go through the Phillies bullpen. First, let me show you the ace, Tug McGraw. You see his on base chance numbers check out pretty good. What I don't like about Tug McGraw's card is there are some power opportunities against left-handed batting, so not particularly crazy about that. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you the numbers for Ron Reed, Kevin Saucier, and Dickie Knowles. And you could see it's a bullpen where you could do a little bit of mixing and matching using Reed and Saucier back and forth against righties and lefties. Both Reed and Saucier have cards that you could get away with. These are pretty decent numbers out of relievers. However, you don't really have that like a Ron Davis type from 1980. You don't have that obvious, okay, this is my setup guy. This is the guy who I get the ball to the closer. So I gave the Phillies bullpen depth a grade of a 3 out of 5. And Tug McGraw, I only graded him as a 4 out of 5 because I'm not crazy about the home run chances that he has on his card against left-handed hitting. So the Phillies bullpen graded out of a 3.5 out of 5. So as we peel everything back and we look at the 1980 Phillies as a whole, you're going to see that they basically grade out as a 4 out of 5. Their exact number came out to a 3.995. So I just rounded it up to a 4, which is really right about where I would put the 1980 Phillies. Overall, this is a very good Strat-O-Matic team. There are real no discernible holes on this team. They don't have any easy outs in the lineup. They don't have any obvious weaknesses in the field, even though I know I talked about Mike Schmidt's E30 at third. He is a 1, but E ratings in the corner infield is really what's more important. So I guess you could say the E30 at third is a weakness. And yes, you do have the 4 in left field with Greg Lazinski, but overall, the defense on this team is solid. They've obviously got the great ace with Steve Carlton, who had one of the great years in 1980. And he's backed up by 3 really quality starting pitchers. And the bullpen, I would just categorize as above average to a soft good. Tug McGraw is not a lockdown closer, but you could get away with him closing a big game at the same time when you play with the 1980 Phillies and Strat-O-Matic. So that's my grade on the 1980 World Series champion Philadelphia Phillies. They come out as a very solid 4 out of 5. I thank you all for watching, and my next video will be on the Phillies opponent in the 1980 World Series. That will be the 1980 Kansas City Royals. Have a good day, everyone.